What's up, everyone? Last week, the stock market dumped down in a major way. There was a ton of selling pressure, and a lot of stocks were breaking their lows. In this video, we're going to talk about what's in store for this week, the important things you need to know, and as always, at the end of the video, we have a big money trade to follow for the week. Definitely stick with us, but Tom, let's get right into it.
Yeah, Mike, last week was insane. And kind of looking at the heat map here from Friday, it obviously was not looking good. We did have a few stocks up in the green like Meta and Adobe, but for the most part, stocks were still down in the red. And if we look at the weekly performance from last week, Mike, this is insane. Apple was down 5.5%. Google was down 3.74%. Tesla fell down 13% last week as Elon, obviously that news of him selling shares came out, but it was overall a very bloody week, and we saw the S&P 500 start to really fall off. And Mike, I know that we keep looking at our channel here on the S&P 500 on that 15-minute chart, and I'll be honest, we are honestly very far under that channel now. Ever since that initial break, we have gotten a huge jump to the downside, almost retesting this 380 support, which I never would have thought we could have got to within just a couple days, but we got really low last week. I'm really hoping that this big 380 support down here can maybe hold up, and then the market can maybe pop back up heading into this week, Mike. And we do have some pretty big news on the horizon. But one thing I wanted to talk about really quickly was actually going to be Argentina, Mike. So Argentina is actually won the World Cup, and they ended up tying France here, but then they won in a shootout today. So congratulations, Argentina. I thought it was really cool how if you Google them, Google throws up these fireworks and stuff for you on here, but I know everybody was watching this soccer, and it was pretty cool to, to watch it and see that shootout. And hey, it's cool to see Messi get a nice win too.
There we go. It looks like it was a pretty good game.
Yeah, 3-3, pretty good, but still getting back into the stock market here though. I think that 380 support on the SPY this week will be very huge, and we do have some pretty big events coming up. So it looks like on Tuesday, we're going to be having building permits come out and housing starts. This is going to be a huge thing for the housing sector. You can see here how the previous for housing starts was 1.425 million. They're expecting it to be around 1.4 million now. So that would come in slightly lower. And that does make sense, Mike. Obviously with rates and everything so high and all that stuff, it's going to be affecting obviously the housing market like that. And looking at the week ahead, there is a huge article here on investing.com, and you can see here they talk about all types of stuff. So obviously last week, Mike, we had Jerome Powell and the interest rate hike come out. That really affected the market. But this week we're going to have earnings, these housing starts, and a ton of stuff to go over. Even a lot of stuff is big with U.S. banks right now. Like, look at this. They're saying that Bank of America fell down 16% last month. Wells Fargo was down 14%. JP Morgan was down 6%. So it's looking rough all across the market, Mike. It seems like no sector can hide from this movement.
Yeah, it's been a pretty significant sell-off lately, which, does suck to see. But like you said, we broke out of that support line with the channel, and, with Powell's speech last week, the news wasn't good enough to hold the market up. And, that's what we see sometimes in that situation. A lot of selling pressure. But you did mention something interesting with like the real estate market. So check out IYR. This is a U.S. real estate ETF. So with the real estate data coming out on Tuesday, definitely keep this stock on your watch list for the week. So yeah, it should move in a pretty decent way given the data set to come out. That is, I guess you could say, relevant to real estate. And then also if you check out ITB, which is a home builders ETF. So both of these stocks should move in a decent way on Tuesday.
I will say this home builder ETF seems like it's kind of forming a nice support, and even like last week, this home builder ETF actually held up a little bit better than some stocks did. So yeah, that is interesting. And I know that the housing sector, Mike, has been one of the biggest talks lately, obviously, because of interest rates and everything like that. I know people keep liking to look at the 30-year mortgage rates, and yeah, it's been crazy. I feel bad for all of our real estate agents and loan officers out there, Mike. I know that the market's been getting pretty whack lately, but hopefully as Powell and everything starts to go on, these rates start to get better, and we start to see maybe some of these bank stocks and stocks in that sector start to come up. I will say, Mike, like looking at some of that data for the banks here, kind of getting into some of the housing data here, I was reading that, it looks like that banks should do pretty well, right? Like with higher interest rates, you would think that maybe on loans they would make a lot of money with that. But they're actually saying that it's shrinking some of their profit margins because they have to pay more on deposits and obviously more on money that sits in these savings accounts and stuff like that. And it kind of eats into that interest that they're earning from the loans, which I thought was very interesting there. So that will probably even affect some banks this week, Mike, even with that housing data.
No doubt. We will see. But Tom, earnings have been a little bit slow lately, but this week we're starting to heat up just a tiny bit. So what's in the schedule?
Yeah, we're heating up a little bit. It's nothing overly crazy, but I will say Tuesday, it looks like we have General Mills reporting along with Fuel Cell Energy before open. So those two are pretty big. I know FCEL has been a pretty hyped up stock this year. And then Tuesday after close, we have Netflix, FedEx, BlackBerry, and a couple more down here. But Nike and FedEx, Mike, are going to be huge. Those are going to be the two biggest ones that I'm watching this week. Nike is usually very good in the holiday season, so I hope that they report good numbers. FedEx is obviously one of the big shippers, which should be benefiting from the holiday season here. So hopefully they also report good shipping numbers here ahead of this. But then we have Carnival on Wednesday, Micron on Thursday, even CarMax Thursday. So we do have a lot of stuff on the horizon, Mike. And I'm really hoping that FedEx and Nike can end up maybe boosting the market up a little bit. But I will say, with Powell last week, I don't think it's going to make too big of a dent.
Gotcha. So out of all of these stocks for earnings this week, which one will you be watching the most?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would say personally, I'm probably going to be watching Carnival Cruise Lines the most myself, just because I've been watching CCL all year long. And whenever I go to CCL's chart, especially on a daily level, you can kind of see how they've been dipping back down recently this week. And they're kind of getting close to that $8 support again. So if they report good numbers, I'll definitely be watching for a little bounce back up. But I will say the last time they reported, they ended up falling off quite a bit. So it's going to be a tough report for them.
Yeah, well, you stole it from me, Tom. That was actually Carnival was actually my most anticipated earnings stock for the week as well. But what would come in for number 2 for me is Micron on Wednesday after close. The whole semiconductor industry has had a wild year so far. And Micron, it's been slowly selling off. Just like a lot of its competitors, and we're getting back to like a crucial level around that $50 support. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, 50 should be big for him. And what I even like about this, Mike, is there's even a little bit of support back here from back on July 1st. Looks like down around like 51 or 52, which is kind of like right where we bounced on Friday. So definitely watch it. I think it could be a very good stock for the week. And I know earnings are a gamble, Mike, but in crazy markets like this, sometimes earnings can end up playing out well. I don't really recommend people play calls and puts on them, but hey, I know if you have some money to throw at him, it can definitely pay off well every once in a while. And still looking at some of the other stuff ahead for the week, Mike, I know that there's actually some news going, well, the Argentina news, but there was a lot of news with actually Macau and China stocks this week, which I thought was pretty crazy. So we have news with Las Vegas Sands, Wynn, and MGM. Looks like they're going to actually sign a new agreement permitting operations in Macau for the next 10 years, Mike. And whenever I read through this, I was actually seeing some pretty good numbers here related to LVS. So it actually says that Las Vegas Sands and Hong Kong-based Galaxy Entertainment have the largest real estate footprints in Macau and have committed to the largest investments here to try to bring more tourists in rather than just gamblers in general. So it looks like Macau is trying to be more of a tourist destination rather than just casinos. But I think that's pretty big, Mike, that Las Vegas Sands is has one of the biggest real estate footprints in Macau. And when I look at like LVS's stock on a daily chart, it looks insane this year. We've actually been flying up quite a bit, especially compared to the overall market.
Yep, you know it. We will see. But let's get into some setups for the week. So one stock I am watching is DAL, so Delta Airlines. If the market keeps selling off, I feel like this one has a lot of room to continue to sell off as well. It could definitely touch that 32 support in the event of SPY breaking down, and then it could fall even lower at that point. It's been stuck in like a channel over like the past couple months, and it's still towards like that higher end of the channel. So it's on my watch list for the week. Right now, it is more biased towards the downside, but we need to see the market overall continue its selling pressure in order for this play to be a good one.
Yeah, I will say though, I like the play, I like the channel, and if we do start to see that selling pressure, I feel like Delta will definitely be one of the better stocks, maybe to the downside. So pretty good one, Mike. And I will say I like how it's just bouncing between that channel there. Hopefully it starts to fall back down a little bit more. I don't want to be overly negative though. I don't want them to crash and burn. Just, we could trade it down for a few days. But another stock that I'm looking at is actually Tilray. And I know that we haven't talked about these marijuana stocks in a little while, Mike. And I know we talked about the channel going on Delta. There is also a channel here on Tilray as well, kind of between like $3 and an upper range of $4.50. You can see how it's pretty much been between this level for a while. You might even say up there around $5 is another area of resistance. But I'm really watching this $3 support here. If we start to get a bounce this week, I will be watching this for potential shares, maybe even some like longer term leap options on Tilray. I will say, Mike, there's just been a lot of news going through Congress lately related to these marijuana stocks. And I feel like if we just buy some shares or maybe some longer term calls or something like that on some of these MJ stocks, they might pay off over the next year or so.
Yep, we will see. All it takes is like some hype or any sort of catalyst or event, and these stocks can definitely pop off. So we'll see what happens. Another stock I am watching for the week is Amazon. So I've been watching Amazon quite a bit lately. It is still lingering right around this like $86 support level. It's been bouncing off this level quite a bit. This is a very significant level for Amazon. And Amazon has sold off quite a bit over the past couple weeks as well. So I'm hoping for like a nice hold of this 86 support and then a bounce up to end the year strong.
That would actually be fantastic if we saw that, Mike. I will say I'm getting a little bit worried, like some of these stocks that are at support might start breaking down below them, and I'm worried about that too. But hopefully we see a nice bounce either way. Even if it falls under, I still feel like maybe at least for a shorter term play, it could be good both ways. So I like it, Mike. A good setup there. Another setup I'm eyeing up is Moderna. I know that we talked about this one a little bit last week. They had a huge breakout with some cancer with some cancer vaccine news that they came out with. They're trying to use their COVID vaccine to actually go and help fight against melanoma, which is very interesting. And they actually had some promising results come out, which sent the stock flying. Now, I noticed that the stock was dipping down here and kind of bouncing around this 190 support. If we hold 190, I will look at Moderna for a possible bounce back to the upside. And when I look at that daily chart, what I really like is that we finally broke out above recent resistance at 190, and we even broke 200 last week. But if we can hold 190 again, I'll definitely look for maybe another retest of 200 or somewhere around there.
Sounds good. All right, well, it is now time for the momentum plays. With the first one, we have Enphase to the downside.
Yeah, Enphase, this poor stock, Mike, it's been so good this year, so hyped up, but it's just overly high at the point it's at, and we're right at $300, which is a very big psychological level. So I would say if Enphase can fall under 299, then go ahead and look at puts. I will say I know 300 is a big level, but I would make it fall under like 299, give or take $1.
Sounds good. All right, then with the next one, we have Meta, but to the upside.
META, very nice movement last week from Meta, actually, compared to the overall market. And again, they're kind of channeling up here at the top. I would say if they could break out above 124, we could look at some huge calls.
All right, then with the next one, we have GLD, but we need both directions.
GLD, yeah, all over the place last week with Powell speaking. If GLD can break out above 167 on Monday, I will go ahead and look at calls to the upside above 167. Now, if we fall down, I would make us break below 165. You can kind of see how that was like a bit of a channel there, a little bit last week, especially around 165.
Sounds good. So we are watching GLD for potential day trade to the upside tomorrow, only if it breaks above the level Tom listed. And we are also watching it for a day trade to the downside tomorrow, only if it breaks below the level Tom listed. And then we are watching Meta for potential day trade to the upside if it breaks above the level. And then we are watching End Phase for a potential day trade to the downside only if it breaks below the level Tom listed. But it is now time for the big money trade from Friday. We are looking at $306,000 into the ALT 13 strike call options that expire on January 20th of 2023. So this play is interesting. It's a biopharmaceutical company. The stock has done pretty good this year, even with the market selling off. It has lows of around $3.83, highs of around $23.50, and right now it's at like $11.50. So the thing is, it's been holding this like $9 to $10 area pretty good. What's interesting about these types of biopharmaceutical stocks, especially like these smaller cap ones, is they tend to move very significantly anytime there's any sort of event or catalyst. So anything like that can really move this stock in a big way. At the same time, they do tend to be manipulated, which is a good thing if you're following the smart money or the big money in this situation. This is like a high risk, high reward type play. In the event some crazy news comes out, this thing can skyrocket. But at the same time, if they have bad drug news come out or anything like that, this stock can definitely tank down as well. So it's like a high risk, high reward type play, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like it's honestly setting up pretty well too, even though given it's a high risk, high reward play. I will say I really like this lower support down here around $8. I feel like that recent touch that we had there was very nice. And if we start to continue moving up here, maybe towards the top of the channel again, somewhere to around 16 or 18, maybe even $20, that would be very huge considering the stock is only at like $11.50 right now. I will say, Mike, looking at the longer term chart for this stock, it has been insane. This stock has went through a few, looks like reverse splits. So keep that in mind as well for anybody looking to hold it. I would probably just trade the options on this one, and I would not get shares just because of those splits going on. But I will say, Mike, if this thing starts to bounce off support and fly up, like you said, sometimes these things get manipulated. And if it has a big run, I'm sure these calls will start to explode. And what's interesting is that they picked the 13 strike, which, that's honestly a little bit away, like about $1.50. Percentage wise, that's actually quite a bit given the stock's $11.
True. So we will see. Either way, keep it on your radar. But I just want to say, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. We post all the time, and in basically every video, we talk about big money trades and just the important things you need to know for the market. And we try to stay as unbiased as possible. So make sure to subscribe. When you do, you will see our videos recommended to you more often. But Tom, heading into this week, do you have any final thoughts or anything else you want to cover?
Yeah, it was just a very bloody week last week. The SPY was very low. We kept seeing moves to the downside, but we're almost back down to that big support around 380. I really want people to be careful this week because I know last week you could have almost played puts any day and have done very, very well. Looking at it this week, though, I'm really going to be careful for a possible small bounce back up, or maybe I'm really going to watch for the 380 support to hold. I don't think that this week the puts are going to be as easy as they were last week. Like you can see on Thursday and Friday, we just had huge gaps and just downwards movement pretty much all throughout the day. I think that this week we'll start to see a little bit more up and down movement, maybe more consolidation. So keep that in the back of your minds for this week, guys. And I will say I recommend looking at some stuff like GLD and maybe some other things that maybe don't move with the market necessarily. I think the GLD could be a pretty big stock to play next week if you pick the right direction.
Sounds good. Also, I want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, the Detail Buff on YouTube. You've been subscribed to the channel for over 2 years now, and thank you so much for all the awesome comments. Tom and I definitely appreciate it. Besides that, we should have a pretty good week. We have a lot of stocks at key levels, and we should see some pretty nice moves. So I'm pumped. Thank you guys so much for watching, and let's have an amazing week.